What's up everybody, I'm the Dead Alliance. Today we're asked the question, what if Qui-Gon Jinn trained Anakin Skywalker? Which I'm fairly sure that this suggestion has been done by a lot of other YouTubers, but I think the one thing that really stands out about this suggestion is the fact that Obi-Wan was actually killed by Maul, and then Qui-Gon kills Maul. So what would have happened after that if this was the actual universe? So let's just say we're at the end of episode 1. Darth Maul and Qui-Gon are fighting while Obi-Wan is stuck behind the red door. Now the same fight goes on between those two, and eventually, instead of Darth Maul actually stabbing Qui-Gon, he just ends up force pushing him across the room. So the red door is open and Obi-Wan comes out charging Darth Maul. So while Qui-Gon is recovering, Obi-Wan is getting charged at by Darth Maul as well. And although Obi-Wan is very strong, Darth Maul is just a little bit better. So Darth Maul ends up landing the killing blow on Obi-Wan Kenobi. Qui-Gon sees this, and although he's a little angered by it, he keeps his cool because he is a Jedi Master, and he goes and he does what he needs to do, which is essentially kill Darth Maul. So Qui-Gon and Darth Maul fight a little bit, and eventually Qui-Gon ends up the victor, killing Darth Maul. So what happens after that? So let's compare the actual timeline to this alternate timeline that we just created. If you remember earlier in the film, Qui-Gon actually suggests to train Anakin and says, well, Obi-Wan's ready to be a Jedi Knight. I mean, look at him, he's 25, which he actually is, check the lore. Like, it's time for him to be a Jedi Knight. And the council considers this, but they're kind of on the fence. So let's go back to our alternative timeline. Knowing what we know, Obi-Wan Kenobi is now dead and out of the picture. And therefore, Qui-Gon was the one to actually kill this new Sith Lord that has just arrived out of nowhere. And I think with Obi-Wan dead, Qui-Gon's mastery of the Force, and his victory over the Sith Lord, Darth Maul, I feel for sure that Yoda and the Jedi Council would have gave Qui-Gon Anakin as his Padawan. So let's just say, for argument's sake, they do. So essentially, our alternate timeline switches Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. So instead of Qui-Gon dying and Obi-Wan taking Anakin as an apprentice, Obi-Wan died and Qui-Gon took Anakin as an apprentice. Now for me, I think Anakin would essentially grow to be a completely different person from who we see in the films. In my personal opinion, I always kind of saw Obi-Wan as more of like Anakin's older brother. Where there's a master and apprentice, the master should be more of a father and the apprentice should be more of a son. And I think Qui-Gon would definitely be more of that for Anakin. I mean, if we look at episode 1, Anakin really never had a father figure. So personally, I feel the only real father figure in Anakin's life was when Qui-Gon showed up. Especially considering I felt like some chemistry between Qui-Gon and Anakin's mom, so maybe they knew each other back when they were younger or something. I kind of like the idea of Anakin being Qui-Gon's son. Let me know in the comments below if you like that idea. Anyways, I'm getting off track. So where I feel that Anakin was always kind of trying to compete with Obi-Wan when he should have been learning from him. I mean, think about it. If you have a sibling, when you have an older brother or something, when that older brother tells you to shut up, you say, no, you shut up. Well, when your parents tell you to shut up, then you shut up. Do you know what I mean? It's a different type of dynamic going on. So if Anakin is constantly trying to compete with his master compared to learn from his master, I think that's where a lot of that type of passion and anger can come from. So when it comes down to it, how different would Anakin's alternate universe self be to the original universe that we know and love? I still think that he would struggle with anger, but I think part of Qui-Gon was so nice about him was the fact that he kind of taught you how to be who you're supposed to be. If you look at Qui-Gon, he has a lot of control over himself. And there's actually some lore that shows that Qui-Gon had actually experienced some dark side in the past and then he eventually mastered it and stuff like that. But I'm only sticking to the actual film Qui-Gon, but that is also adding to my argument, so I'll just throw that on there too. I think Qui-Gon would be able to show Anakin how to control his anger. Even when Anakin's mother would die, I feel that by that point, Anakin would kind of learn how to feel those emotions. One of the coolest things about Qui-Gon was the fact that he wasn't a standard Jedi. He still had feelings, he still believed in the living force. He didn't particularly follow all of what the Jedi Order teaches, but he believed in the living force itself. And I think he might show Anakin how to do that too. And although Anakin may still feel pain from his mother's death, he may still have sorrow, but he wouldn't let it control him. See, one of the most terrifying things about Anakin's anger is that he lets it control him way too much. I mean, for instance, look at Mace Windu. You can tell that guy's still angry. You know, we know that he's not like straight face, he doesn't feel anything. We know that he has some anger on him, but he doesn't let it control him. He stays focused, he stays on the path. I do personally believe that Qui-Gon could have taught him how to do that. So essentially, we would never see a Darth Vader. But then there's also the question of, what if Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus, shows up? What's gonna happen with that? Now, I actually don't know that much lore about Darth Tyrannus personally. I heard that part of Qui-Gon's death is what kind of drove Count Dooku to really drive for the dark side. I don't exactly know if that's true or not, so I'm just gonna go with Dooku still being a bad guy. But I do think essentially instead of Qui-Gon and Anakin going to kill Count Dooku, Qui-Gon might actually be able to sway Dooku back to the light. Because as we've seen in the films, Dooku talks so highly of Qui-Gon, just like he's his son. So it would be pretty interesting to see Qui-Gon actually go and talk to Dooku, where Dooku's expecting to fight. Dooku thinks that Qui-Gon came to kill him. But the nice thing about Dooku is that although he has anger, he can control himself as well. And I think that comes from years of being a Jedi and being able to control your senses. And eventually when Darth Sidious got a hold of him and showed him the power he could have, that's when Dooku kind of got more out of control. But Dooku was always in control of his fighting style. Not once do we ever see his anger overtake him. He's always in control. And I think that's very powerful. Now this all sounds like pretty cool stuff. It sounds like Anakin's actually going to turn out to be a really cool Jedi. But here's where it messes up our main timeline. You see, since Qui-Gon is now going to be trained to be an official Jedi, to be pretty much Obi-Wan from the first film, and if you remember how calm and collected Obi-Wan was in the first film, we're going to essentially see that, or at least that's what I think we would see from Anakin in the second film. So when he sees Padme, he's not like, oh god, look at her, she's looking good. It's more like, oh hey Padme, how we doing? Oh, that's good, yeah. Well, I'm a Jedi now, and I have, you know, fun Jedi things I do, I guess. Although we can't essentially have fun, but I mean, they're alright, I guess. You see, since Anakin can control his emotions, he wouldn't really want to be with Padme. I mean, he may think she's pretty, but he has control over himself. He's not going to force himself to get with Padme, like he does in our universe. So why does this impact the overall Star Wars series? Since Anakin can control his emotions and sees Padme as just a friend, that means that they never get together, and that means that there's no Luke or Leia. So just Qui-Gon training Anakin completely wipes out the original trilogy. But then this all comes up to the big question. What exactly is Chancellor Palpatine going to do? See, one of the things that I felt Palpatine really liked Anakin for was for his force power potential, as well as his emotions. So although that potential is still there, Palpatine's going to be a little more hesitant because he knows Qui-Gon's watching him and training him, and Anakin essentially can control his emotions now. And like I said, although he may feel sorrow and sadness here and there, he doesn't go that extra step to feel that anger, because remember, he can control his emotions now. So what exactly is Palpatine gonna do? In this universe, Darth Maul's dead. Count Dooku, if he did turn bad, would turn back to good because Qui-Gon would have turned him back, and Anakin would be trained to be able to have that power over his emotions, and therefore would be less easy to be manipulated into turning into Darth Vader. So where does that leave Palpatine? What exactly would he do? Especially when you consider if Count Dooku was evil, he already knows who Darth Sidious is. So if he gets turned back to good, you already know Dooku's gonna rat him out. So I think Dooku, Qui-Gon, Anakin, and the entire Jedi Council, maybe even more Jedi, are all gonna come right to the Chancellor's door and be like, dude, you're done. Surrender, buddy. Surrender. The prequel trilogy would end on a happy note due to the fact that Palpatine is now captured. Dooku would be a good guy, and eventually as time goes on, Anakin would become a Jedi Knight, and then a Jedi Master, and then maybe essentially have his own Padawan at some time. So although the original trilogy wouldn't happen, the overall galaxy would be much happier. Now from all this, you might be thinking that I'm saying Obi-Wan was a terrible master, and I do not think that at all. So I guess you could say Obi-Wan tried his best to be a good master, but Anakin was just a really bad student. But even really bad students can be taught. Anakin needed a father to teach him, not an older brother. And I think with this said, if you have a sibling of your own, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're an only child, you may not get it completely. I always see it like this: the apprentice shouldn't try to be better than the master. The apprentice should take their time, learn the skills, and try to be the best they can. I think that's the biggest difference between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon in training Anakin. And the culmination of this universe comes down to this. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Anakin needed a father to show him the way, not an older brother. But of course, this is just my opinion on this topic. Let me know your opinion on this topic in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe if you guys enjoy my videos, and until next time guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.